Alright guys, and welcome back to Armored Warfare, and today we're doing a tips and tricks video to see how we can improve your gameplay. You might be a veteran player of the game, you might have come from alpha, you might be brand new to the game, or you might have been playing the game for a little while but you're not quite up to scratch yet at the game. So I'm going to try and teach you some of the tactics and methods that I go through on my games. Just in general, I've got two games here that will hopefully teach you some of the main bits to the game. So we're going to have a look at some sniping, we're going to have a look at some brawling, and we're also going to have a look at minimap usage, as well as other bits and around and about that. Always helpful. So if you're a new player to the game, you've just come out of World of Tanks or something, and you see this and you're like, oh my god, he's driving a car. Yes, there are wheeled vehicles in Armored Warfare, and wheeled vehicles do have an advantage in themselves. They are incredibly fast, very fast. This ERC 90 will get me around the map very quickly. You can see I've spawned on the other side to where I want to go, but already picking up the speed to 80 kilometers per hour here, as well as coming up to 90 now. Artillery drops around in front, we missed that. We're going to use the superb mobility of a wheeled vehicle with the amazing gun of the ERC 90, which you'll see later on me putting to good use in its sniping role. Good pen, good damage, good accuracy, and a good reload time as well. Come up here, overtake the Dragoon, another wheeled vehicle. You might be inclined to get that one for first. For its tier, it's very mobile. But we are a tier 5 and a tier 4 and 3 match. So we're going to park up. Oh, okay. Situational awareness there. A good first tip to know. I was not looking behind me. The Dragoon was coming up behind me, didn't expect me to stop. So I stopped, he rammed me. But we're using this bit of foliage here and this tiny little gap to see through and see if we can shoot anyone in the side if they're going to come round. Since we did get hit quick and early, we can set up our ambush position, and there we go. Guy comes round, quick 349 damage straight through his side. We are spotted, so we're going to come out. We don't want to sit in first-person view and try and reverse a wheeled vehicle. If any of you actually drive a car, you'll know what it's like trying to reverse while looking straight. And as you saw there, less situational awareness from me. I was panicking that the T-72 Ural was going to shoot me, which he did, but I wasn't looking behind me as I went back. So therefore, that Leopard 1 that came up behind me got stuck, and I couldn't really back up at all, and I got hit his side, jammed up against it, and then the T-72 hit me. There you go, Leopard 1 also not paying attention there. He's just backing straight up into me, not paying attention to what's behind him. Situational awareness is a massive bonus to your gameplay. If you can be situationally aware while playing, you'll be really well better off. You'll be able to see around you, see what's happening, what enemies are coming around, which direction to you, and most importantly, where your friendlies are in proximity to you. Because as you saw that Leopard 1, if I'd have sat there, he would have got stuck and shot straight in the top of the T-72 Euro and died quicker than he already did. But he was not paying attention to what's behind him, and so he rammed into me. I was luckily paying attention to what's in front of me, and yeah, I managed to get out of the way quickly. So, some sniping here. We are on a good ridge on top of the map. We have a very good position on this M60A3. M60A3 being a very strong tier 5 main battle tank with era. Now, I shouldn't really be fruitlessly firing at him here. You can see I'm sort of... Can I not? I was taking my time there on picking my shots because I'm not going to keep on pumping AP rounds into him. They're not going to penetrate him at that range. Quickly switch my target to the OF-40 because he's the guy that I could shoot and he was close to me, making sure that I wasn't going to be spotted by using a little bush in front of me, which is also quite helpful. Another little trip, or tip should I say, not trip, a little tip is that when you hit someone at range, if you're not spotted but you damage them, you render in. You don't get spotted as such saying, hey look, here's Fizzy Milk and his ERC, but my model of my tank destroyer will appear, and if you watch where the shells are coming from, you might actually get a glimpse of where the tank is, and then you can fire back at them, because that will damage them, of course. It doesn't matter if they're spotted or not, you can damage them if you hit them. I've switched to heat rounds here as well, because a lot of the enemy vehicles are very weak. 2 swing fires, 2 OF-40s, an M109, 2 LAV 300s, and an AMX 10P Pack 90. Heat rounds are very effective against these vehicles. Now, what's the difference between an AP and a heat round? Or what's the difference between all the rounds, may you ask? So an AP round is exactly what you would expect it to be. It's a fast, muzzle velocity, it's got high muzzle velocity, good penetration, mediocre damage, as such. Heat rounds have lower penetration, much higher damage, as well as a much lower muzzle velocity. As you can see, I can fire the round, and you can see the round sort of traject towards them. It doesn't fly straight, it has a trajectory. If you saw me firing at that OF-40 before, the round took at least a second or two to get to him, because the AP rounds on this thing have a 1200 meter per second muzzle velocity. So the round will literally impact them as I fire. There's not much shell lead to go with that. The heat rounds, on the other hand, do require a bit of leading and a bit of judgment on your behalf to be able to hit. And don't fire them at era. Era or composite armor have a massive shape charge multiplier on the armor. So what this means is, if the shape charge multiplier is ×2, for instance, and the armor thickness is 100 millimeters. Now, if that armor was exactly perpendicular to your shell, the shell was coming in at 90 degrees, that would mean the shape charge has to penetrate 200 millimeters of armor. That's what the armor modifiers are, so you can calculate your relative armor thicknesses based on that. Swing fire has 0 armor defense against my heat rounds, and another little thing there is the APS of this. APS is an active protection system. What this will do is it will knock out ATGMs. I'll explain ATGMs in a second, but we're going to do some brawling here. So 10p90, same gun as me essentially, but this guy is not really, he's not efficient in his brawling. So what I'm doing is, even though I have a quick reload, I'm reducing the amount of time he has to shoot me. So I'll pop out, fire, pop back, and just before I'm going to reload, about a second before that, I'll come out. So I reload as I'm out, fire and come back. That reduces the amount of time I'm out there, which is a helpful thing when trying to brawl someone in a pop-out situation. But going back to what I was saying about the APS, APS is a module that you can put on your vehicle. It might already have it on it as standard, but there's some vehicles like the ERC90 I'm playing here, you have to upgrade to it. What this will do is it will blow out an ATGM. I think the ERCs has infinite charges but a 45-second cooldown. So an ATGM is a shaped charge, but the ATGMs are a bit different to a heat round in the sense that you have to wait. You can't fire them on the move. You have to wait for at least 1.5 seconds to fire them, and you can like control the round where it's going. You can fire it, you can control the round where you want it to go, and it will hit where your cursor is. I'll just let you have a look at the stats while I'm chatting on. But the ATGMs in general are much more powerful than a heat round themselves. That's why they have their own counter to them, the APS. So, for instance, the BMD-4, a tier 7 Soviet, what would you call it, AFV, it's got a 100mm ATGM, or a 30mm autocannon. So the autocannon, yeah, it's a good autocannon, yeah, but the ATGM, the 100mm ATGM it gets, does 800 average damage with about 750 penetration. Compared to the heat rounds of some vehicles, the heat rounds have much lower penetration, whereas an ATGM has higher penetration and higher damage than a heat round does, which is useful for large vehicles that don't have an APS system or era. You can easily, completely destroy them with an ATGM, but I'm not using them at the moment. So I hope those brawling and those little tips there in that last game were very helpful. So this game, we're going to be talking more about situational awareness. It's a very useful thing to have. It was only minor in the last game. It was only, we crashed into someone, they weren't paying attention. We did like 60 damage. It's useful not to do, but 60 damage is not really going to do much at these sort of high tiers. It could be helpful, it might do something, but yeah, we're going to be doing more serious situational awareness. So we're driving the Expeditionary Tank. This tank you can't buy. It was a Founders Pack vehicle, and it is a very odd machine. It's got an unmanned turret, so if you shoot the gun or the turret of this vehicle, it'll do very minor damage to it. It'll only do about 150 to 200 damage for your shell. Instead of the usual, if you shoot the hull, it will do about 1 trillion damage and do metric arse tons of crit damage. The turret is quite a nice thing to do, so going hull down on this machine is also quite effective. Coupled with the good penetration, the good damage, the good rate of fire, accuracy of the gun, you do get quite a good machine. Not to say the turret, if you take enough hits, it will do a lot of damage. It will knock out the autoloader, and it will knock out all those sorts of vehicles. It will knock out the gun, it will knock out the autoloader, and generally make the thing harder to play. But the Expeditionary Tank doesn't sort of play like a light tank. It's more like an AFV. It's really useful to get to know your tank. Don't come out of this video and expect you, like, take on board my tips and don't expect to be an absolute pro instantly. You've got to know your vehicle that you're playing. So if you're playing an MBT and it doesn't, like the MBT 70, good armor, but it's very mobile, it doesn't really play like an MBT too much. And as we see here, I'm going to be a proper light tank and I'm going to go AFV hunting. Load in a heat round because I know that my heat round, if it strikes the fox, will kill him instantly. So we're going to try and hunt him down using our good mobility. Where is he? But firing on third person is a bit more difficult. I don't get the fox, unluckily, but he's dead, so that's alright. But we're going to have to respond to the threat. There's loads of us up the top of the map, and we are completely destroying that flank. But down below, we have two Leopard 2 AVs and an RDF LT. These vehicles are pushing the flank. All we have is an XM1, T72A, and an RDF LT. That VFM Mark 5 we just shot at will be seeing us later. So we're going to come round. We're going to finish off this Leopard. There we go. Heat round straight through the back. Finish off this Leopard with a heat round, but I make a mistake. My heat round goes into his side, and I do not aim at his rear while he's turning. Big mistake there. I have to change to an AP round. Hope I pen his lower plate. The penetration marker was yellow, indicating that I might penetrate, but the penetration marker on his side is green. Always try and scan your enemies for your green penetration markers. If not, take the risk on the yellow. Come round, finish off the MBT-70, and oh boy, here comes the VFM Mark 5. Ignore him, get to the friendlies. The friendlies are way more helpful at trying to deal with him than I am. I'm a one-shot kill, put another round into his drive wheel, use the T-72A as cover. There we go, saved our ass there. That VFM might have finished us off, but the T-72 on much more HP, much more armor, slapped with era all over the front. That thing will be able to easily take the VFM shot. So we used our guy to save us, our T-72A. And we're going to use our mobility of our light tank now to go on a little flanking mission. We can see that there are plenty of vehicles on the enemy team that have 0 armor. BMP-3, Bradley, RDF, the 2 Acacias. We can all use heat rounds against them. And I know there's 2 Acacias here, so I've loaded a heat round for them. But I will be changing to AP in a minute, I'll tell you why. There's the Acacias. Try and knock out the lower HP one, but we don't do it. He's on 112 HP. The other one's still on full HP. Now, should I go? Should I not? Should I wait? Is anyone coming back? Because looking at the mini-map, which we can try and read off of, we can see that there are plenty of AFVs, a Bradley, an RDF, and a BMP-3 that are not spotted. And we probably could have been noticed, and they could be coming back. So I'm going to load an AP round for them, because I know the Bradley and the BMP have era. As I explained, era does negate heat, and there's the BMP-3. With era still intact on his front. A heat round there could have done nothing to him if I was very, very unlucky. So I've loaded an AP round for them, but the BMP-3's dead. We can load in a heat round because we know the Bradley's far away, and the RDF and the Acacia get no form of composite sort of era protection of heat rounds or shaped charge rounds. Come round. RDF, much bigger threat to us. Knock him out. The Acacia, yeah, it's an artillery at piece at close range. Finish him off like that with a heat round. Bradley, he's miles away. He's got a center and a BMP-3 to deal with, and he is dead. I hope I've taught you some quite nice things about this game. I hope I may have taught you some lessons that will help you improve your gameplay. Situational awareness, reading your minimap, sniping tips, brawling tips, tips about shells, armor tips such as multipliers for shape charge, AP and HE, shell types. I didn't actually go into HE, did I? So HE rounds will usually do damage. They might not, depending on the armor thickness. They have a thing called an armor threshold. So what this means is they'll only do damage to the tank within that armor. So say if it's 20 to 100 millimeters of armor, the HE round will damage. If the armor thickness is about 150, the HE round will do nothing. It might damage the gun or blow a bit of air off, but it won't actually do any hull damage to the vehicle. So try and aim for bits with your AP rounds in between those armor thresholds. So it's all about learning your vehicles. So knowing where to shoot, knowing weak spots, knowing weaker bits of armor, knowing like modules, era bits, what tanks to fire at and what not to. That's a key lesson to learn. The tanks. Learn the stats. It will come to you over time. Don't sit there in your garage trying to learn the stats. It will come to you over time during your gameplay. And that's exactly how I learned this game. From the alpha, I learned the vehicles, but I transferred my skills from World of Tanks over. So I had a little bit of a head start there. So guys, thank you for watching this tips and tricks video. I want to hear your feedback. Tell me how you thought it went. Tell me if it helped you at all. And as always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.